Welcome to Productivity in Real Life, where we talk productivity applications like Evernote, Notion, Todoist, Microsoft Office, and so many more, along with actually putting each one of these applications to use in real-world examples. Of course, if you're new to the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to get notified as we release new videos. Over the next few videos, I just want to talk to you about how I use my note-taking applications in my everyday life. In my particular case, I'm heavily invested in the Evernote system, as you can see here, with over 45,000 notes. And it functions as my second brain. And whatever note-taking type of application you use, you can essentially do the same thing with. So the examples I want to show you this week are, as I said, how I use my note-taking applications day to day. Real-world life, real-world examples. And I'm always asked how I amass so many notes in Evernote, how I keep them organized, and what is it that I'm doing to have so many notes. So that's the reason for this week's video series here. How I use, in my particular case, Evernote, but again, any note-taking application. So today, let's jump into how I use Evernote for my photography hobby. So I do have a set of notebooks, and I have them in a notebook stack here. I do have other notes related to photography that certainly aren't in this, and I'll show you those in a minute. But I do have a certain thing with my photography set up here for notebooks. I've got photos that I've taken, I've got stuff about clients, and I've got just a general photography notebook. So let's just jump into that and we'll get started here. This is sort of my catch-all notebook for everything photography related. Like I said, I do have a lot of notes that are photography related that aren't in here yet, but we'll touch on that momentarily. These are all notes of some description that I've collected that inspire me in my world of photography and different things that I want to do as an amateur photographer or a hobbyist photographer, however you want to term that. So just going through the notebook here, grabbing a few things, kind of a creepy face idea. So I've got this labeled as, or what it is, it's tree bark for texture in a photo layer on a obvious portrait here, making it kind of a figures. Mute that. Should be doing that at the start of the videos. Anyway, this is just a screenshot off of probably Facebook that somebody had posted. And so I've captured that into Evernote and just tagged it, photo ideas, portraits. What else have we got here? Saw this one that was kind of interesting. Milky Way, a model, some landscape. So I've combined this, photo ideas astro for astrophotography, and I've also labeled it as a portrait, as for portrait ideas. Moody landscape, wildlife photography. I like that idea for wildlife photography myself, so that's what I've tagged it as. Landscape ideas, just to capture this kind of layering in the color. Photo idea, vehicles, mountain biking, and I've just made a note. Note the right mix of shutter speed, blurred background, sharp rider, but blurred legs and wheels. This came from a Instagram post. Here is an event that takes place in my city and a variety of cities around the world. Color Me Rad. And I've tagged it. I've put it in my photography notebook for some reason. It could go anywhere. But I've also tagged it with my city as an event to keep an eye on. We'll get into event planning where you are at some other point in time. Here's photo tips, why you must use a polarizer And that's a clip from a website, but it's more of just a, actually no, I was going to say it's more of a video, but it's just one of those websites that don't clip very well, so you can click here and it'll jump to the website and you can continue reading. Well, that's a broken link, so let's just clean that up right now. Just delete. But I think you get the idea here out of the 1,300 notes that I've got in here. Landscape photo ideas for portraits, vehicles, could also be used for wildlife, obviously. Photo tips. I've got this little mini PDF booklet here of different photography tips, and I've just labeled it as tips. Toronto city skyline here, so I've called it landscape and long exposure ideas. On ice with long exposure, just to get the clouds, doing that. Came from Facebook. Photo ideas for in winter and landscape. Would also qualify for portrait. Photo ideas, portrait. And this also gives you an idea how I use tasks. They're all nested like this. I'll show you those in a moment here. Lunar photography, it's got some numbers in here. So that if I want to try and reproduce that, here's what I'm looking for. 1200 millimeter lens, 1/60th of a second shutter speed, the ISO, f-stop. This is GoPro photography. That's photo tips. It was in there and not tagged. I like to keep everything tagged. Long exposure, 4 minutes with abandoned house and clouds. So again, I collect images, tips, all kinds of things like that related to photography, and I'll make some notes. This one's an article. Actually, this is came in off of a website and it's captured all the comments in here. A storm. Here's what the photographer used for their camera gear and their lens, their shutter speed, all that stuff. So it gives me an idea, okay, if I want to recreate this photo, what am I doing here? Again, just a wide assortment of different things that kind of inspire me or give me different ideas. Light painting. Anyway, the list goes on. I could spend an hour going through all this with you, but I'll try not to bore you for that long. Business ideas, if I wanted to start charging for my photography, how to get your photography business off the ground in 2 months, 4 simple steps. What's this one? Lightroom tips. Photo-tips-Lightroom is how I have it categorized. And this is just some basics on using Lightroom for photo editing. Portraits, how to pose a model. Not only do I have pictures of portraits in this notebook that I want to refer to and try and replicate. Here's an article on posing your models. Facial expressions, shooting high and shooting low, seated portraits, full-length portraits. So you can see I've got a collection of education and ideas in here. And how I keep those organized, like you've been seeing up in the top here under the tags, is if we go into my tags and I go to my photography section, you'll see business forms. Well, if I'm going to charge for my photography, I can go here and find out what did I collect for forms. A photography client timeline with contracts, terms of use forms, model release. Here's an app that I haven't bought because I don't need it yet, but hey, if I want to find out about model releases and what there is for apps available, I've already got one bookmarked. Model releases, if I wanted to use an upload to Shutterstock, for instance. Go back to our tags. Here's all my ideas in photography. Some things a whole lot more than others. Artistic. Clearly I don't have much interest at the moment for artistic images such as this, or they might be classified elsewhere like photo-ideas-composite, because that's a composite image you have to put together. Pets. If I want to get some ideas for taking pictures of pets, you know, what have I collected that stands out to me as interesting? Here's an article off of a website. I've got this labeled as photo ideas for pets, photo tips for just general. I've also got it added to my shopping wish list, which we'll touch on later, because there's probably something about this article that I would have to buy. Here's one here, dog swimming. Photo ideas for both water and pets. Something I grabbed off of Facebook. Simple image there, but I kind of like that. Pets in the air or underwater. Again, just a screen capture that I've gotten from something. Close up with black frame. All you need to know about getting your dog's perfect shot. Back to our tips. Or back to our tags, sorry. Long exposure. Here's all my long exposure ideas. Photos that I want to work on with long exposure. Mist coming over the mountains. Car trails. And again, what I've captured when I can is how to basically do that. 15-second exposures. Long exposures of the water and the ocean. Back to our tags here. Photography learning underneath this master tag. Photo tips for working in Photoshop. Here's a few key things that I've put together that I've seen interesting in Photoshop and how to do those. Luminosity blending. Avoid these 10 Photoshop faux pas to make your images look better. Just a quick article here that I can link out to from Lifehacker. How to replace your colors in your images using Photoshop. If I want to work on my drone photography a bit more. Just a quick note about, hey, make sure you get your NOTAM details before flying. Dolly effect, this is just a YouTube link to watch. UAV best practices bulletin. Visual observer roles. I've got quite a few GoPro cameras, so different tips on using the GoPro. Here's just some hand scribbled notes that I took one day watching a YouTube video. Underwater photography guide with the GoPro. Understanding your GoPro Part 2. Come from a website clipped. And I think you get the idea there. Photo tips. Lots of general tips in here. And this is where we get into a few things that, quite a few articles that aren't stored in my photography notebook, because these articles here may have come in and just not be sorted yet. They may have come in off of an automated newsfeed reader system that I have set up that works in Evernote. And like I say, you know, I can easily deal with these once I get reading them. You know, detailed tutorial on how to capture silky smooth water. Well, that's a long exposure method. That's also water related. And I can take this out of my one inbox and I can move that to my photography because it's related to photography. And now it's all classified and organized and put in where it belongs. How to spot an amateur. Just some interesting reading that I've collected. Shopping. I've got a wish list of camera gear that I have stored in Evernote. Here's one of those things right here. So it's just in my offline notebook. It's related to photography, so it's in under photo tips. And it's also under my wish list for shopping. And actually I've created a separate one specifically for camera gear. So let's move that right now to shopping dash cameras. We'll take it out of our regular wish list. But it's photography related, so it's under photo tips because it comes, this device here I found interesting to have as an item for lighting. I can leave it in my offline notebook, or I could move it to photography. I'm one of these people that do run with very limited number of notebooks. I rely on the tagging system. 5 quick tips for better safari photos. This is also wildlife, so photo-ideas-wildlife. We'll move it out of our temporary notebook and put it back into photography there. What happens if you've had your photos infringed and stolen? Photo tips, we'll put that into photography as well. But I think you get the idea here. What I do is collect information, and that's what a note-taking application is really all about nowadays, is collect that information and save it. From there, you can organize later. The big thing is collect your information. For me, it's collecting everything about photography that I like, everything about photography that inspires me on how to be A, better photographer, and B, things that I want to improve upon and how. And once I collect all that information, I start tagging it. I get it in there. I tag it under ideas. If I want to do crystal ball photography, here's some ideas that are interesting. If I want to shoot video, here's some different things on video. Important stuff for study, importance of B-roll. That's just a YouTube clip that I wanted to bookmark and save for follow-up later. Underwater video. Like I said, Photoshop, all that stuff. Some of my own photos. Now these aren't necessarily pro-level photos, but they're just things that I took that I wanted to save and tag as important to me for whatever reason. Food. I have a food journal, so a lot of these just are basic images that I've snapped with the phone or whatever. They're not meant to be a pro-level photo. These are actually a part of my fitness and food journal stuff going on here, but they're in under photography. Evernote, or whatever your note-taking application is not meant to be a photo organizing system, so I do discourage against dumping all of your photos into there and trying to organize them. Put a few key things in there. Photos of my kids, a few key images go in there. Different wildlife images that I've shot, you know, they go in there. But again, Evernote for me is more, in my photography world anyway, is more about collecting ideas and coming up with ways that I can duplicate these or improve upon them or just work on achieving the level of mastery that some of these other folks have in their level of photography. So anyway, I just wanted to say thanks for watching. I hope that gives you a few ideas on how I use Evernote in the world of photography, for me anyway, as a complete amateur, complete hobbyist photographer. And like I say, hopefully that gives you some ideas in how you can use your note-taking application, whether that's Evernote like myself, OneNote, Notion, Bear, Apple Notes, whatever it may be. I hope that gives you some ideas in using those note-taking applications to get the most out of them and how to improve upon, well, your level of productivity when it comes to your photography hobby. or perhaps business. Again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions on the process in our videos or anything about the videos themselves, be sure to leave your questions in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, of course, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be first in line to catch our new videos as they're released. And of course, don't forget to like this video on your way out. So that's it for now. Stay tuned for our next episode on using note-taking applications.